Thank you, sir. I would now like to request our Honorable National President of ISAS, Dr. Chandrachudan, sir, to deliver his presidential address.
Thank you, Dr. Preeti. Dr. Kinshuk Dasgupta, our expert speaker today, Dr. Raghav Sharan, Vice President of ISAS, Dr. Avinash Bharati, Chairman of the Nagpur chapter, Dr. R. Srinivas, Chairman of our ISAS Hyderabad chapter, Dr. Joseph from Kerala chapter, esteemed audience who have gathered for listening to this very important talk today. At the outset, on behalf of ISIS, I wish to congratulate Dr. Kinshuk Dasgupta for receiving the prestigious Sandhi Saru Bhatnagar Award for an exemplary work that he had done, which made a landmark in the Atmanirbharata or self-reliance for India. And for all others, dear participants of this webinar, especially the younger generation, I would like to highlight a very salient aspect of this webinar today, that in addition to the outstanding work, and we are going to hear about it from Dr. Dasgupta, this webinar carries a very important message about research and development. If R&D has to make national developmental impact, it is essential that we convert the basic research into applied research, develop it into applied research, directed basic research, and develop products which have got real practical implication for our national development program. This is the very salient, a very important message that we have to derive, so that we can, many of our participants probably are the right candidate for making equal or better development work than Dr. Dasgupta has contributed. So from this point of view, I would like to re-emphasize the philosophy of research and development. Basic research is very important, but there is a tendency to linger around basic research. That is not very desirable. At some point of time, we have to progress into directed basic research, applied research, and then development of products and problem solving in that mode. So that would be the right approach. And then in that case, if a few people at least take that message and do things, this webinar will serve a very important purpose as far as ISIS is concerned. So with this remark, I would like to thank Dr. Dasgupta for coming and joining us to give this talk, and I look forward to listening to him. It's a very interesting research work and application. Thank you very much, Dr. Preeti.
I would like to invite Dr. Ranjit to introduce our guest for the evening.
Good evening, all the guests, esteemed guests present here today. Thank you, Dr. Preeti, for giving me this opportunity. In fact, thank you, Dr. Saran, for giving me this opportunity. Dr. Kinshuk Dasgupta joined Bhabha Atomic Research Center, India, as a scientific officer after completing his Bachelor in Engineering, Metallurgy and Material Science from Jadavpur University, Kolkata in the year 1999. Dr. Dasgupta completed his PhD in Chemical Engineering from the Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai. His PhD thesis received Ambuja Cement Best PhD Thesis Award. He visited University of Cincinnati, USA for a Fulbright visiting scholar during 2018-19. He received Young Metallurgist of the Year in 2007 by Ministry of Steel, Young Engineer Award in 2012, and Scientific and Technical Excellence Award in 2017 by Department of Atomic Energy. Dr. Dasgupta has been awarded Dr. N.J. Suchak Innovation Award 2019 by the Institute of Chemical Technology. Recently, Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize 2020 in Engineering and Sciences has been conferred upon Dr. Dasgupta for his work on carbon-based nanomaterials and composites leading to the development of Bhabha Kavach, a lightweight and short substitute ballistic system jacket for Indian Armed Forces. Dr. Kinshuk Dasgupta has 5 patents, has authored 3 book chapters, and has more than 90 publications in peer-reviewed journals. In addition to Bhabha Kavach technology, he has transferred several technologies to the industries, including large-scale synthesis of carbon nanotubes and rare earth magnetic alloy powder. Currently, he is serving as the head, Advanced Carbon Materials Section G and AMD, Material Group, BARC, and Associate Professor, Homi Bhabha, International Institute, India. Dr. Kinshuk Dasgupta, we welcome you and over to you. Thank you so much.
Can I start now?
Yeah, please.
Okay, let me first thank Dr. Ranjit for the nice introduction. I'd like to thank Dr. Chandrachuran, Dr. Saran, and other dignitaries of ISIS for giving me the opportunity to present my work in this prestigious forum. So let me first share my slides.
Yeah.
Are you all able to see my slides?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good afternoon to all the attendees. So, I'll be talking on the topic carbon nanotube to Bhabha Kavach. So, before I start my talk, I'd like to acknowledge the contributions from my wonderful team, my mentors, and the collaborators at BRC as well as from other institutes. So, what is carbon nanotube? Carbon nanotube, it is basically hexagonally arranged carbon atoms when they are rolled in a cylindrical form seamlessly. So it takes a tubular form. I'm getting some echo. Can you please, others, can you please mute? Yeah. So when it takes a cylindrical form, we can call it single wall carbon nanotube when a single layer is present. And depending on the orientation of this rolling, we can get either metallic or semiconducting. And when there are concentric such tubes, we call them multi-wall carbon nanotubes. Now, why carbon nanotube is so much attractive? So if we compare the properties of the carbon nanotube with other forms of carbon as well as a steel, we can see that it has very high strength, almost of the order of 6 to 10, very high Young modulus. At the same time, the density is almost 1/6 of that of the steel. So the specific strength of carbon nanotube is very high. In addition, they have very good thermal conductivity, good electrical conductivity, and all these attractive properties have made them candidate material for so many applications, starting from composites, where basically carbon nanotube is used as a filler material. It can be a metal matrix, ceramic matrix, or polymer matrix composite. Then it can be used for water treatment, gas adsorption, energy storage due to its very high specific surface area. Carbon nanotube finds application in sensors, catalysis, drug delivery, where we can attach various molecules of interest onto the carbon nanotube and use them for the particular purpose. It also finds application in field emission. At BARC, we are using carbon nanotubes for some special applications. Here in this slide, you can see them. At the leftmost top side, you can see that we are using carbon nanotube powder along with ceramic matrix to produce boron carbide, carbon nanotube composite by hot pressing. Also, they are used with ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. So it is polymer carbon nanotube composite. And these two have been used in Bhava Kavach, which is a lightweight ballistic resistant jacket. Then we are also doping carbon nanotubes with heteroatoms like nitrogen and boron, or co-doping nitrogen boron for hydrogen adsorption studies, and we are measuring the kinetics of adsorption. Similarly, we have used carbon nanotubes for metal ion separation, like in carbon nanotube polymer beads for rare earth extraction, carbon nanotube freestanding tubes for water purification, in actinide separation. And then there is a special form of 3D form of carbon that is called carbon aerogel, where the carbon nanotubes are long enough to self-assemble and give a 3D structure, and from carbon aerogel we can make flexible capacitors, piezo sensor, chemical sensor, and also carbon nanotube fiber. So these are the aspects where we are utilizing carbon nanotube. Now for all these applications, and mostly for where the carbon nanotube is required in the powder form, we require it to be made in an economical way and at a large scale. So there are various methods that we have employed. Fluidized bed synthesis of carbon nanotubes for large scale synthesis. The deployment of this fluidized bed is due to the maximum utilization of the surface area for a gas solid reaction, and also high throughput. Here in the leftmost figure you can see a fluidized bed furnace which has been designed and fabricated at BIRC, which can produce almost a kg of carbon nanotube per day. You can see the TEM images and high resolution TEM images of the product, where you can count the number of walls also. And this carbon nanotube is of the purity of 98.5%. Now, when we want to make the carbon nanotube using chemical vapor deposition, which can actually give you a large scale synthesis of carbon nanotube, you require a carbon source like hydrocarbon, a catalyst, generally transition metals or their alloys are used as the catalyst, then catalyst support material, because these catalysts are in nano form and we need to disperse them, otherwise they will agglomerate. So for the dispersion we require a support material, generally alumina, magnesia, silica, zeolite, etc. are used. A carrier gas for dilution of the hydrocarbon, like argon, hydrogen, nitrogen is used, or their mixture, and a temperature, and temperature is required to give the activation energy for the growth of the carbon nanotube. Now for our process, we have chosen acetylene as the carbon source, which is very readily available and cheap. A support material called carbon black. I'll tell why carbon black has been chosen. Then a carrier gas argon, catalyst ferrocene, which on decomposition give iron nanoparticles. Synthesis temperature we have kept from 700 to 1000 degrees centigrade, and in atmospheric pressure we have used. Now our objective is to make it in an economic way. So we have chosen all the raw materials which are cheap. Now coming to carbon black, as I was telling that we require some support material. Now as we are using fluidization is a process which I will show in the next slide. Generally nanomaterials are not fluidizable. They make agglomerate and the whole bed generally comes out when you send the gas. But the carbon black is such a wonderful material where the primary particle size are in the nano range, in the range of 30 nanometer, and they self-agglomerate to form a soft granule in the range of 100 to 10 to 500 micron. And if we sieve them in proper size range, it is easily fluidizable. Carbon black is cheap and they are fluidizable. So that is why we have used carbon black as the support material. So what happens here? This is a typical fluidized bed. So in the blue portion, that is the main reaction zone, we put the carbon black here, and the yellow portion is a distributor where from the gas comes from below, and through the distribution they fluidize the material. How? I'll show in this video. This is just a typical like that. If the gas comes, the carbon black starts fluidizing like this, and once fluidization starts, then we'll send the from the preheater, which is here where my precursor is, this cursor is there. So from here the ferrocene is kept, and ferrocene is passed it along with the carrier gas. They get deposited, they get cracked and deposit, iron nanoparticles get deposited on the carbon black, and then acetylene is sent, and acetylene, they also on cracking at high temperature, it gives carbon and hydrogen, and there are mechanisms by which the carbon is adsorbed onto the iron nanoparticle, and finally it comes out in the form of nanotube. I'll discuss that in subsequent slides. So in order to ensure the fluidization is happening, how do we know that a proper fluidization happens? So here we measure the bed pressure drop against the superficial gas velocity, and we get a plot, typical plot like this. So initially, when the gas velocity increases, the bed expands and the bed pressure drop increases. And at a point when the fluidization starts, the pressure drop suddenly decreases slightly, and then it is constant. So by measuring the pressure drop and seeing the this monitoring the pressure drop, we can understand that bed is properly fluidizing. So there are theoretical calculations also to find out the minimum fluidization velocity, which is given by Great-Argan equation. That is theoretical calculation, and practically, experimentally, we can find out by bed pressure drop versus superficial gas velocity. Now we studied temperature, flow rates, carbon black agglomerate size, initial bed height, catalyst concentration, partial pressures, and time of synthesis. Why so many parameters? Each are having their importance. First is temperature. Because if we do the temperature study, we can find out the activation energy. If we plot the Arrhenius equation and plot 1 by T versus ln of rate, then we get the activation energy, and this activation energy gives us the estimation that what is the rate controlling step. Because if we don't know the rate controlling step, we cannot scale it up. So from lab scale to industrial scale, if we want to scale it up, we need to understand the reaction mechanism, we need to find out the rate controlling step. So temperature gives us the first hint that what may be the rate controlling step. If the activation energy high, that means it may be chemical kinetic control. If it is low, it is diffusion control. So now there may be three possibilities. One is external diffusion. As I was talking about fluidized bed, what is external diffusion? Means from the gas phase it is coming to the carbon black. So that I will show you in the next slide. So the external diffusion, then there may be internal diffusion, that is inside the pores, and then finally it can be chemical reactions. So to understand the effect of the external diffusion, we need to vary the flow rates. Then to understand the effect of the internal diffusion, we need to vary the carbon black agglomerate size as well as initial bed height. Now the last two, fifth and sixth, that is catalyst concentration and partial pressure of hydrocarbon and hydrogen, this is required to vary in order to understand the chemical reaction control. And finally the time of synthesis, that gives us how the catalyst gets deactivated because it is a carbon is getting deposited continuously, and after some time catalyst gets deactivated. So that idea also we can get from the time of synthesis. So effect of temperature, as I told you, that if we plot 1 by T versus ln of formation of carbon nanotube, we can see clear-cut two regime. One is above 807 degrees centigrade almost, and that is one is below. So if we see the below 807 degrees centigrade, the activation energy is in the order of 47 kilojoule per mole. So from this value, we can have an idea, okay, this can be chemical reaction control because diffusion cannot have this much activation energy. And the second regime that is above 803 degrees centigrade, that is 7.6 kilojoule per mole. And here we can find, okay, this can be a diffusion control regime. So now when we varied the superficial gas velocity, we saw that there is not much effect on the CNT production rate, both below that 807 degrees centigrade, that is one was done at 800 degree, another was above that, is 1000 degree. In both the cases, there was not much effect. So we can conclude that there is no effect of external gas transfer. But when we varied the carbon black size, if you can see that at low temperature, that is at 800 degrees centigrade, though there was not effect, but at high temperature, that is at 1000 degrees centigrade, the CNT deposition rate was varying with the size of the carbon black. So now if I plot them, so we can get a straight line, and by fitting this equation, we can get the values of the rate constant as well as the diffusivity value for this particular mechanism. Now, after doing this much, what can be the reaction mechanism? So if you see this schematic, so this is a fluidized bed where there are mainly two phases. One is called emulsion phase, where gas and the solid, they are homogeneously mixed, and another is called bubble phase, where the excess gas passes. So what happens at the first step, the hydrocarbon that gets transferred from the gas phase or the bubble phase to the emulsion phase, and next what happens, the mass transfer of the hydrocarbon from the emulsion, it has to come to the external surface of the carbon black. So these are the carbon black primary particles which they agglomerate, and this is a big particle. So this is the transfer of the hydrocarbon from the emulsion to the external surface. Next will come from the external surface to the internal, where these iron nanoparticles are sitting. And once they come to the iron nanoparticle, this hydrocarbon, they get adsorbed on the iron nanoparticle. Then there will be reaction. So acetylene gets dissociated, carbon molecules are formed, and these carbon molecules, they get solubilized into the catalyst particle. Initially saturation happens, then supersaturation happens, and from supersaturation carbon nanotubes comes out, and the hydrogen gas and other products, byproducts, they are coming out in the gas phase, and carbon nanotubes start rolling. So, and the other steps are again the reverse of that, that is the desorption of the hydrogen and other gaseous products, the diffusion of the gaseous products from the catalyst surface to the external surface of the support, and finally the mass transfer. So now these are all the 11 steps, and as I talked earlier, only 4 to 9 these steps they are important at low temperature because the other steps are diffusion control, which is not the controlling mechanism. So we need to concentrate on chemical reaction control regime, that is 4 to 9. So I can write the mathematical model related to those steps, like acetylene is coming and it is joining on S means site, and it is having making a it is attached. Then there, from there you can have the carbon molecule and hydrogen can come out. Then once again this adsorbed carbon can react with the incoming acetylene and can give rise to saturated carbon, and from saturated carbon to it can go to supersaturated carbon, and finally supersaturated gives rise to CNT and it comes back to the saturated carbon. So this is the model which we proposed, and for all these steps you can see these are reversible except the last step. And related to each step, if we consider each of them individually rate controlling, then we end up with equation which is listed in the right hand side. Why I showed this? Because if I see the CT means catalyst concentration, that means in all these equations you can see catalyst concentration that varies linearly. So now if I vary the catalyst concentration with CNT deposition rate, actually experimentally we carry out, we found out yes, it is varying linearly, and after it gets some saturation value, but at different partial pressure they linearly vary with the catalyst concentration. Now we change the partial pressure. So when you change the partial pressure, then you see that the carbon deposition rate, it follows a particular trend. And which is that trend? So we need to now plot all these equations with respect to that plot, and we could see that step 5, the equation related to step 5, that is exactly matching with the experimental data point. So we can see now the step 5 is the rate controlling. What is step 5? Step 5 is the dissociation of the acetylene, adsorbed acetylene into carbon molecule and desorption of hydrogen. So this is the rate controlling step. Once I know this is the rate controlling step, now my design of reactor as well as the scale up procedure should be accordingly taken up. So once we developed this model and we analyzed all other literature data as per our model, and we could find that our model could predict those published literature data. Also, we studied the deactivation of the catalyst, as I told. So with time, there will be decrease in the catalytic activity. And if we plot against the CNT deposition rate, we can once again have some mathematical equation which can describe the process. So finally, if we can develop a mathematical equation for the whole process, everything is under my control. Here you can see what happens when a catalyst gets deactivated. I am showing some TM image typical, where the catalyst particles, they are surrounded by the other forms of carbon like amorphous carbon, which covers the catalyst particle, and it does not allow the growth of further growth of carbon nanotubes. So how we characterize this? Once we get carbon nanotube, how we characterize them? The first thing is we should get a Raman spectra. So Raman spectroscopy is an easy and very useful characterization technique for carbon nanotube. So there are typically 3 peaks, D, G and 2D. So G corresponds to the graphitic type of vibration, D is disordered nature of vibration, and 2D is a overtone of D. So in generally, in if it is multi-walled carbon nanotube, we get value of D high. For single wall nanotube, G is very high, D is low. And in single wall nanotube, we get another peak called RBM, which I will show in the next. So here I am showing that how these three peaks, they vary with respect to different temperature. Also, we do the thermogravimetric study. Why it is required? To understand how much amorphous carbon it has been deposited. So if this is a typical multi-wall carbon nanotube, where we can see, if I take the DTG, that means differential of TG, here we can see two peaks. This peak is related to the high energy configuration, like the end of the carbon nanotube cap or the defective part, that gets oxidized first, and the second peak, this one, is due to the wall of the carbon nanotubes. This is the typical TEM images of the carbon nanotube which we produced at different temperature. This is the high resolution TEM, where we can really find the number of layers. So you can find from 8 to 13 layers of carbon nanotube. So we can also produce single wall carbon nanotube, but the technique slightly changes. That is called floating catalyst method. In floating catalyst, we don't use any support material now. Instead of that, carbon source is taken as methane instead of acetylene, because methane we can control the carbon easily. Then ferrocene is once again used, but we require another important material, sulfur, which is a growth promoter, as well as it controls the diameter of the carbon nanotube. And once this is the TEM image of the single wall carbon nanotubes, they generally comes in bunches due to very high specific surface area and high van der Waals forces. So here you can see the single wall carbon nanotubes. Now the typical Raman spectra, here you can see the D has almost vanished. Here the D is not there. Instead of that, you get an RBM peak, that is called radial breathing mode, from where we can get the diameter of the carbon nanotube. We can calculate that. And TG also, here also you will not get, you will get a very sharp drop. So no two peaks. If you take the differential, you will get the only single peak of that. Now if I see the effect of partial pressure here, this is slightly different than what we watched in multi-wall carbon nanotube. Here the deposition rate of carbon nanotube finally comes down when there is high partial pressure of this hydrocarbon. So that is why we should always synthesize the single wall carbon nanotube at a low partial pressure of hydrocarbon. We cannot match the production rate of single wall carbon nanotube with that of the multi-wall carbon nanotube. So we can produce the multi-wall carbon nanotube at a higher rate, because we can go for a higher hydrocarbon partial pressure. Here we cannot go for a higher hydrocarbon partial pressure. If we go for a higher hydrocarbon partial pressure, we'll end up with soot. These are the selected publication related to that. So now I'll come to the second part. After making carbon nanotube in large scale, that means we have a facility almost 1 kg per day. How we have utilized them for Hava Kavach. So I'll just like to give you some introduction of a ballistic resistant jacket of bulletproof jacket. They have mainly two parts. One is called soft armor panel, which is a flexible part and it takes the body contour, and another is called hard armor panel, that is a stiff part. If you see this jacket, inside the cover, what is taking our body shape and giving a body contour is the soft armor panel, and inside this pouch we put this hard armor panel. So this is the combination, soft over that hard. Why? Because the soft armor, the hard armor panel, the aim is to, the high caliber bullets, it will deform the bullets, and the shock which is coming, that will be absorbed in the soft armor panel. So I'm just giving a basic this thing, that there are bulletproof jackets, there are different threat levels. We call it level 3A, 3, 3+. depending on the what kind of ammunition we use. The lower level 3A, it is for like 9mm pistol or Sten gun, whatever we fire, that is level 3. Then level 3A. Level 3 is from SLR, AK-47 mild steel core, and level 3 plus is AK-47 hard steel core or Insas rifle. It was named this is actually called NIJ standard. It was NIJ, or earlier we used to follow this standard, but there is now a B standard. We have our own standard. The nomenclature is slightly different, but only these bullets are being used. I am not going into details to that. So what was the objective? The objective was to develop a lightweight jacket which would provide multi-hit capability and reduce the blunt trauma or backface signature. So what is blunt trauma? Even if a bullet is stopped, the energy is dissipated, so the energy it gives a protrusion backside. So that protruded part, it will, if it is not within certain value, it can damage our vital organs inside. So even if the bullet is stopped, a person can get killed by high level of trauma. So we need to keep the trauma value also below a certain level. How trauma is measured? Typically, this is a plasticine type of material, clay or plasticine, which resembles our body tissue or body muscle. Over that, we put our panels and bullet is hit, and whatever is impression is coming, that is measured, that gives the value of the trauma. So as I told, there are hard armor panels and soft armor panels. So hard armor panels, what is used? Hard armor panels, it is a sandwich structure where the strike phase, that is the bullet phase, that should have a ceramic, because the ceramic is, due to its hardness, it can blunt the bullet and it gets fractured. So once it gets fractured, the fractured fragments as well as the fractured bullets, that needs to be contained with the back face, this backing material, which are layered structure of ultra high molecular weight polyethylene and CNT composites. And here we have used in the ceramic boron carbide as well as CNT, boron carbide CNT composite. So the philosophy is to mix up a hard and a tough material. So hard material will blunt the bullet, tough material will capture the fragments, and everything is contained with the hard armor panel. And the soft armor panel, it gives a cushioning effect on the body and also attenuate the energy, so that finally the trauma that our body receives, that is very low. So if I just show you the mechanism, generally soft armor panels are layered structure. So initial layered, sometimes if a bullet is hit of a very low caliber like 9mm, that time we don't require a hard armor, even the soft armor can stop it. So what happens, these layers, initial layers get teared and finally it is captured. And in case of hard armor panel, when we talk about hard armor and soft armor together, what happens, the bullet comes, it hits the ceramic and it will make the face blunt and a cone shaped fracture will happen, and the bullet jacket, they are kept outside, but the core, it travels inside, and this core is finally entrapped into the backing material. So by this mechanism, the bullet is stopped. So now I'll show some of the results that what I told, boron carbide and CNT composites. So we have used carbon nanotube, graphene nanoparticle and carbon fiber with boron carbide. We have used a hot pressing technique and made some tiles which was used for the making the hard armor panels. This is the XRD, which shows there is no boron oxide remaining. And then this is the typical Raman spectra, which tells us the presence of both carbon materials and boron carbide. This is a microstructure. This is very important. If I increase the carbon nanotube weight percentage, volume percentage, what happens? Initially with 0 volume percent, some porosity is there. The porosity gets reduced, and finally with very high volume percent we get agglomerate. So same thing happens with graphene nanoparticle as well, and carbon fiber as well. But now I want to give you a comparison of these three materials, what we should use. So hardness, if I check hardness, flexural strength and toughness, fracture toughness, all these three properties are very important for hard armor panel. If the fracture toughness is high, that means my energy is wasted by branching of cracks or bridging of cracks or crack deflection. So I can absorb more energy. So always we want a high toughness material, and hardness also high. So if you see, the carbon nanotube with a 5 volume percent gives you very good hardness, very good, reasonably good flexural strength, and good toughness. As we already had the capability of making carbon nanotube in large quantity, we have utilized them for making the composite. Here you can see that tiles are made, and with those tiles we make the HAP that will show how we make it. Also CNT we use with ultra high molecular polyethylene as backing. Here you can see the DSC image where it shows there is a bond formation with carbon nanotube, where it is pressed at a temperature and pressure along with the ultra high molecular polyethylene. So with that bond formation, it makes that particular polymer very stiff, and for the stiffness, the elongation to failure, that is strain to failure, also improves. So finally, this gives you a low backface signature. So this is the selected publication related to that. So what we generally do, we take ultra high molecular weight polyethylene sheet, we spray CNT, and then we compact it, that is called compaction molding. Then we lay out the ceramic tiles on that. There is a adhesion to backing, and finally vacuum bagging. Then with the aramid we wrap it, then nylon and foam wrapping, and finally this is the hard armor panel. So once we get the hard armor panel, soft armor panel, they undergo very rigorous testing. That is called, first is conditioning. That hard armor panel, it is at a height, it goes under thermal cycling, minus say plus 65, it goes to minus 40 degrees centigrade, in certain cases 90 degrees centigrade also, with a humidity, relative humidity at 80%. Then after that it will undergo drop test, means after drop there should not be any crack development. And the SAP, soft armor panel, it is tumbled. The tumbling is happening under water, a drum containing water that rotates for 10 days at a particular RPM. So the soft armor panels is kept under that. So after doing all this tumbling and thermal cycling, then the ballistic test is done. So that means the bulletproof jacket has to withstand this harsh atmosphere. So now I am showing some of the results, glimpses. The first is the result with existing jackets which we took from CISF, previously existing jackets. This is the trauma, means after we fire the bullet, you can see that the depth is high. The similar specification Bhava Kavach, almost nil trauma, very low, less than 16 mm. Here it was 44. So when we developed level 3 plus, the backface signature was less than 10. Here you can see. I can show you some of the values, that is with SLR, AK-47, what was the backface signature. And here you can see the bullets are entrapped And if I take the X-ray radiography, even the bullet fragments can be seen. So this is in a nutshell the Bhava Kavach, and the level 3 Bhava Kavach weighs 4.75 kg, which is almost 25% to 30% less than the other variety of other category market available material. And level 3 plus is 6.8 kg, which is presently available is more than 10 kg. So these were handed over to NSA, and this is a summary. I can show that how the weight. So we can have a less than 5 kg Bhava Kavach for level 3, level 3 plus less than 6 kg. There are certain other configurations. I am not going into details. They also have very low weight and with low backface signature or trauma. So these results are based on more than 70 test reports and test samples, and one test means it is so much tumbling, so much conditioning, and 6 shots. So six shots in one test, so 70 you can understand. So what is the current status? We have transferred the technology of Bhava Kavach to 5 companies, and more than 150 Bhava Kavach we ourselves have handed over to different forces like CISF, CRPF, BSF and Northern Command for their field trials and deployment. The technology for the boron carbide as well as hot press boron carbide and boron carbide powder also we are giving, that is in process. And large scale synthesis of carbon nanotube which we are offering also to industries as a part of Bhava Kavach as well as a separate technology. This you can see that Midhani got from us, and presently they have got more than 500 order for the Bhava Kavach for different allied forces. And this is a picture where we are handing over, our director BRC is handing over to DG of CISF the 55 number of Bhava Kavach. So this will be used for those who are deployed at BRC for the security purpose. Bhava Kavach also got a wide media coverage. So finally, before concluding, once again I want to thank my team members for their efforts and in a time bound manner. Without their effort, it was not possible to achieve such a huge target. And I must thank you all for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for a very interesting and informative talk. The platform is now open for discussion. So we can have some questions for Dr. Dasgupta. The participants can post their questions in the chat box. I can read out for them. So if there are any questions, you may.
इसी वजह से नीचे होता है स्लो
facial attendance. तो वो process करेंगे बोल के start हुआ. They have given time dates also. So and so date, this division, that division. Ours was third actually today. But Monday क्या हुआ मालूम, मैं ऐसी आई सुबह में आ गई, मैं जल्दी कोई नहीं था, I think बस खाली
We can
मैडम आ गए आप, मैं और जल्दी आ गए
we can take up question in the chat box.
Yeah, I think the participants can pose their questions in the chat box. I read out. Yeah. Okay. Sir, we have one question from Manisha Patle. Is amorphous carbon of no use for carbon nanotube preparation?
Yes. Are you? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are. You are.
Yes. Amorphous carbon is of no use, so we need to avoid formation of amorphous carbon during the preparation of carbon nanotube. So this, how we can do that? That also let me answer. What happens, as I told, that we need to concentrate on the partial pressure. So if the partial pressure is too high, then chance of amorphous carbon formation is there. So for carbon nanotube, your partial pressure should be on the lower side. So maybe 10 to 20% of the total pressure.
Any more questions? Yeah. So this is from Ranganathan. How does this Kavach compare with internationally available ones?
One. Acha. I can reply to this in two ways. One is the quality wise. In certain results we have got even better than them. If you see the value of the backface signature, we got negligible. That means it was not even able to measure. And cost wise, we are more than half. Less means you can say half of the cost of the imported jackets. It will come down further. Definitely, we are expecting it will come down further. But at present, it is half of the cost of the imported jackets.
Anybody else? Any questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, then I would like to thank sir once again, and then I would like to request Dr. Saran sir to cite the certificate of excellence to be presented to Dr. Dasgupta for his excellent talk.
First of all, I wish to thank you enormously, and with sense of pride, we want to present this certificate of excellence. Now, I will just cite it. So,
I am indeed honored with these words what have written in the certificate.
this is certificate of excellence and Indian Society of Analytical Scientists, ISAS, in recognition of the exemplary performance in culminating research exceptionally useful product is happy to confer this certificate of excellence on Dr. Kinsuk Das Gupta for sharing his immense insight, unparalleled expertise, and enriched knowledge on the development of lightest and most economical AK-47 HSC bullet resistant level 3 plus bullet proof jacket Bhava Kavach using carbon nanotubes and boron carbide composites in a webinar organized by the Nagpur chapter of ISS in collaboration with Hyderabad chapter and IEEE Nagpur subsection. He delivered the insightful talk on carbon nanotube to Bhava Kavach. His indigenously developed and low-cost jacket is an import substitute and has been inducted in Central Armed Police Forces. The talk synergized immensely with the objectives of ISS in promoting excellence and relevance. Thanks a lot, Dr. Das.
I am indeed honored to get this certificate. Thank you all.
Sir, I would request Dr. Chandrachudan sir to virtually hand over the certificate to you.
Oh, that is a very pleasant duty. At the outset, what I have to say on this the entire episode is an excellent research work carried out by Dr. Kinshuk Das Gupta, an excellent product developed as a outcome of that, and the product goes into a marvelous strategic application, and the entire thing is presented in a very excellent and clearly understandable manner through his lectures. So it is only excellence what we can speak about it, and this is a marvelous development in the materials area, which is very badly needed for our country and for the future material development. So I am extremely happy as president of ISAS to hand over the certificate to Dr. Das Gupta and wish him well to come out with many such exemplary development work. Thank you very much, Dr. Das Gupta.
I am honored to get this, and I am receiving this on behalf of my team, because without a good team, it is not possible. So I am happy to get a very good team along with me. So I am taking this on behalf of all of them. Thank you.
That is marvelous. And on this occasion, I would also like to thank the Nagpur chapter of ISAS, Hyderabad chapter of ISAS, and the Nagpur chapter of IEEE, Dr. Ranjit Singh specifically, for joining hand and then organizing a wonderful webinar. Thank you very much.
I would just like to add one sentence. As a matter of fact, Dr. Das Gupta is the real role model for ISAS objectives, because ISAS objective is to make researches and to concretize it and to further hand over it to industry for reaping the benefit of sciences. So Dr. Das Gupta is the real role model in this sense for ISAS. Thank you, Dr. Das Gupta, once again.
Thank you, Dr. Saran.
Now, before I request Dr. R. Srinivas to propose a formal vote of thanks, wherein he would be thanking everybody, I would like to thank Dr. Srinivas for co-organizing this webinar with us. And now I would like to call him upon to present the vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening to all of you. It's my great pleasure, privilege, and honor to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of Indian Society of Analytical Scientists of Nagpur chapter, Hyderabad chapter, and Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers Nagpur subsection. First and foremost, these are profusely thanks Honorable Speaker Dr. Sushil Das Gupta for his excellent talk on nanotubes to Baba Kavach. The Indian society scientific community is really proud of your team doing this high quality research work which you have applied for making lightweight bullet jacket, which is of national importance. We would like to thank Dr. P.P. Chandrachudan sir, National President, ESAS, for his constant encouragement and support for the ESAS activities and for his excellent presidential address. Thank you very much, sir. ESAS is grateful to Dr. Raghav Saran sir, Advisor Nagpur Chapter and National Vice President, ESAS, for making this webinar possible and also for his keen interest, guidance and encouragement. Thank you very much, sir. ESAS would like to thank all the three conveners and joint conveners, particularly Dr. Avinash Bharati, Chairman, ESAS Nagpur Chapter, Mr. Ranjit Singh, Chair, Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, Nagpur Subsection, and myself, Dr. Srinivas, Chairman, ESAS Nagpur Chapter, Hyderabad Chapter. We also thank the organizing committee members, particularly Dr. Chandrasekhar Pannerkar for formatting feedback form, e-certificates, etc. ESAS also thanks Dr. Preeti Mangrulkar, Assistant Professor, RCOEM, Nagpur, for efficient comparing. We also thank Professor Amit Bankar, TNP Officer, Sarvodaya Engineering, Nagpur, for all the technical support. Special thanks are due to Mrs. Shreya Bharati for preparing the flyer for this webinar. Thanks are due to all the EC members of ESA chapters Nagpur, ESA Nagpur, Hyderabad and IEEE. On behalf of ESA's Hyderabad chapter, I would like to thank Dr. Saranji sir for giving us the opportunity to join as a co-host for this wonderful webinar. ESA's Hyderabad is also grateful to Director IACP for his support and encouragement for all the ESA's activities. We also thank all who directly and indirectly supported to make this webinar a grand success. And last but not least, we would like to thank the participants for making this webinar a grand success. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
So, thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Dasgupta, for joining us. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks to you all.
Thank
very
you, sir.
much. Thank you very much, Dr. Das Gupta.
Thank you.
And hope
Thank you, Dr.
to
Dasgupta.
hear
Thank you
your
very much.
second lecture
Okay.
from you.
Dr.
Soon.
Srinivas, we will meet more frequently now.
Yeah.
Very-
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I can leave now, no? Means
Yeah.
can I leave?
Yeah, please.
Sure,
please.
sure, sure.
Okay.
It was a great
Please,
pleasure to have you
we'll-
over here. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next product. When we come out with the next product, we will again meet.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks and welcome and good night.
Good day. Good day. Good day. Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Karan sir. Once
Dr.
again,
Bharati,
thank you very much.
Dr.
Thank you very
Saran,
much.
see you.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Bharati, see you.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
see you.
sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandrachudan sir.
Yeah.
See you.
Okay.
I hope I covered everyone. I
Dr.
hope I
Bharati,
covered.
see you.
Yes, sir. You covered everyone. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Thanks.
It was a nice get together.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't look like virtual. It is actual.
Yes.
I think in future also it will be like this probably. I think we have to live with only virtual webinars.
Yeah.
No, it is in fact very good because you don't have to run away. We can switch off.
One who leaves
That's
also
right.
there will be a message. He left.
Mhm.
At 7 o'clock, we have got a Kerala chapter meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
Kindly, if you spend kindly join and tell the opinion and how to improve our programs. And we would like to have more participation from Hyderabad chapter.
Definitely,
We'll
sir.
join. We want to actuate all our sleeping partners. That is,
Thank you.
so
Thank you, sir.
we'll find out more activities. We'll
Thank you
definitely.
very much.
Yeah,
There are
yeah,
so many
yeah.
very highly competent people are there.